Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nate Matthews Leader, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Maggie and Tim, and we are the Inside Agents. On this weekly podcast, we'll be discussing hot topics around football and the sports industry from two agents' perspectives.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today is a pleasure for me to introduce one of my friends in football, Tyler Long, on the Inside Agents podcast. He's a scout at Nashville, and Tyler and I go way back because he's from Nashville and we always used to play each other, and he was a talented player on the region team, and we had some great battles. And I honestly just remember him as being some tall, lanky kid who would literally cause our defense so many problems. So Tyler eventually went on to play at Brown University, and then he did his master's in finance at SMU. Another interesting fact about Tyler is he was also an agent before he became a scout for Nashville at Only Four Stars Player and Match Agency. So honestly, he's one of my friends in the business, so I'm really excited to have him today.
Thank you, Nate.
Awesome.
Thank you, Maggie. Yeah, no,
No problem.
This is awesome. Thanks for having me, and I'm excited to fill you guys in on everything. You know, it's a lot to talk about, so ready to start whenever you guys are.
Absolutely. So, well, first of all, thank you so much, Tyler, for being able to join us today. We greatly appreciate it. Of course, it's another episode of the Inside Agents, and so we're super excited. And so let's get right into it. Can you walk us through your journey on, how you became a scout and what that was like for you, and what were you doing prior to being a scout?
Absolutely. And I'm going to take the floor for quite a bit of time right now, just because I feel like to provide the right context, you've got to tell the entire story, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So like Nate mentioned, I was born in the Nashville suburbs of Clarksville. And at the age of 4 is when my mom and dad first signed me up to play. You know, I'm like every other American kid, played soccer, played basketball, baseball, no American football. My mom didn't want that.
Same.
So I don't blame her. But anyways, I was like a normal American kid, middle class. You just play all these sports, and soccer didn't really particularly stand out to me as my favorite one until I was 10 years old. And at 10, I had a life-changing event happen to me. I was diagnosed with alopecia. I lost all my hair. And at that point, it was very early on in your life, you realize that life's not fair, and that nothing's guaranteed. And so I knew I needed to find something to help me cope with the pain and deal with the harsh realities that could be in the world. And for me, the football was that. It was the one thing that I could just go outside, I could juggle, I could dribble, I could shoot, I could listen to music, and I would forget about all these sad things that I would be feeling on my day-to-day life, and I would only care about the football. And that was my therapy, it was my medicine, and it was what gave me my purpose. And so at that age, I found my escape, I found my passion, and I knew there was nothing else I wanted to do with my life. Unfortunately, back when this happened, this was early 2000s. So there wasn't the professionalism path to become a professional player in the United States. That's something that's still an issue to this day. It's not even close to being resolved, but you've got to remain optimistic, and I am optimistic that it will become more democratic like it is in the rest of the world. But besides that, so I had to go to Nashville, an hour and a half south of where I grew up, to get the best training, to play with the best players. I played on the Tennessee ODP team. As Nate mentioned, we competed in the Region 3 ODP together. And I played at Brentwood Soccer Club, which is now Tennessee Soccer Club. And those formative years from the age of 14 to 18 really allowed me to be on the radar of colleges. I want to be a professional, but it was impossible because there was no pathway. So college, my mom's an educator. She's a teacher. My grandparents were both teachers. So it's always been ingrained in me, you got to go to college. Well, I was looking at schools to go to college, and I had some full rides in state, of course, but I wanted to see the world. I didn't want my life to be limited to the scope of what I just had grown up seeing. So Brown University came calling. I remember when I first got the email, my mom I was doing AP Human Geography, summer homework, right? And my mom comes back into my room, and she's like, Tyler,
I took that class.
Yeah. Hey, this is a good class. This is a good class.
God, AP classes, man, that's such a throwback.
Throwback, right? That's a decade throwback right there. But no, she came back there and was like, hey, have you heard of the school called Brown? they emailed you about soccer. And I'm like, Ma, you're a teacher. Like, you should know Brown. Like, it's
Yes.
legit. It's legit. And so I remember just reading the email and just being like over the moon. My high school was built in 1999, and I graduated 2013. I had the opportunity in front of me to be the first student to go to an Ivy League school from Rossview High School, and to play soccer doing
Amazing.
which is what I wanted to do. So for me, it was no brainer. Went up there and I played 3 out of 4 years. One of those years I had to sit out because I tore my ACL. So I had a medical red shirt. And by the time I graduated in spring of 2017, it was like, okay, Tyler, you can start working, or you have another year to keep playing. What do you want to do? It's a no-brainer. I want to keep playing, you know. So, so luckily SMU, that's another crazy story. They recruited me in high school, but they didn't have sufficient scholarship money for me at the time. And we were lucky enough to play them in the second game of my senior year in Providence, and that was for me like that was like the game. I had circled that game like 10 months prior because I was recovering from my ACL injury. I missed my junior season, and I knew that my senior year was my last one at Brown, and SMU is like a perennial powerhouse who used to recruit me. So I'm like, okay, I want to play well against them, and I put that on my mind all summer. I scored against them. I played like my best college game against them, and then sure enough, I was lucky enough to get a scholarship offer at the end of the season to do my grad school year at SMU, and that was the best training environment I'd ever been in my life. We had, I think, 9 or 10 guys of a 30-man roster play professionally, and I loved everything Brown offered from the experience, the people I met, the opportunity it's given me. But if we're talking purely soccer, SMU, and I'll say they're a top 3 college, in my opinion, for what they can provide for players.
Yeah.
It's next level. It's next level. And so to wrap up, like by the time I was about to graduate grad school, I was interviewing at investment banks, management consulting firms, private equity shops, doing what I guess you could generalize what most males from Ivy League schools would go into, right? But I hated interviewing with them, if I'm being honest with you. Like I was like, man, Tyler, you do what you love every single day. You talk football with your mates. You watch football. Like you have banter and conversations about this. Like, well, I don't want to have to give up like the most fun of my day just to have a job and completely like not be able to be living, breathing football. And so luckily, the stars aligned, and I had done pro bono work for Stars for about 2 years prior to me graduating. And by the time I was graduating, they had decided they were going to make an investment in opening up a New York City office to grow their business in America. And I was the guy that they wanted to do it. So I was very fortunate in that regard, that when I graduated in May in 2018, within 10 days, I was in New York City in an apartment right before the World Cup started, trying to build a business there. So that's how I got to become a soccer agent and working at football.
And so when you were an agent now, how did you decide you wanted to be a scout?
Yeah, so it was almost more circumstantial. My bosses at the agency knew from the get-go when they offered me the job that when Nashville was a Major League Soccer club, if there was ever an opportunity to be with them, they were going to allow me to do that. It's almost like, if you're a player and you sign a contract for like a relegation side, and you put the little clause and say, hey, if Real or Barca come calling, let me go. That was one of those situations for me. So
there's that. Yeah, you needed that clause in there. It's like, hey, if Nashville calls, guys, I love it here, but I gotta go home.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was so. I give all credit to my mentor, my boss, my close friend Daniel Taylor. He's one of the founders of Only for Stars. He was a teammate of mine for 2 years at Brown. He was our captain. He played professionally in Sweden and Greece. But I remember when I had the job offer from Nashville, and I remember thinking, like, man, this is going to be a very tough conversation. But it was the easiest conversation ever. We were having ramen, and I told him, and I was so nervous. I was like shaking. And he just gave me a hug. He's like, dude, this is what you wanted. Congratulations. And so to have that type of support, professionally from a friend level, your money can't buy that. So it was easier than I thought it would be, and I'm just very blessed and fortunate to be in the position I am.
That honestly, that is an amazing story, because like I'm glad you touched on it because the way soccer's going now, like when we were growing up, I only wish Atlanta United existed. And I only wish Nashville existed because, like you said, in regards to just football in general, there's no like real pathway. Now it's becoming there's a pathway. It's like academy players can literally see the pro players. You know what I mean? When we were growing up, it's yeah, you can be pro, but it's like we could not see it. Like we're like, oh, we hear it, but we're playing at Concord. Like on the global scale, what's Concord? Like what's Tennessee Soccer Club? Like they're big grassroots clubs, but it's like there's no pro team. Like Tyler knows this. Like the only player that we really knew was like Kellen Acosta, for instance, because he was already at FC Dallas at those times where it's like Kellen's gonna go pro. Like we knew like Kellen's great. He's one of the best in Texas, and he's at an MLS academy, and it was all of our dreams to just be at one. So by the time these clubs came, we're already like in college already.
Yeah. And to like further impact what you're saying, like that anecdote, I have a very similar observation from my shoes. It's like you mentioned Kellen, and I also remember playing with Emerson Hyndman. And both
Emo,
kids,
Emo. Exactly.
Both of them are from Dallas. And when I first joined ODP, I was 14, and in my mind, I'm like, I'm finally having this chance to be seen and to maybe become a pro. These kids had been doing it for about 2 years prior, and they were already in the FC Dallas Academy or being prepared for the U17 at IMG, or even being looked at from clubs overseas. You know, like for people like us, we were just trying to be the best we could be with our own clubs or in our state, and there was just no way to. A lot of people. I'm not saying Emo and Kellen are both super talented footballers. That's not the point. But there were dozens of talented footballers that exist in that Region 3 pool that maybe they're not national team players, but they could have been MLS players, they could have been USL players, they could have been etc. And there was just no pathway for that to happen. So I just thought that was interesting that you bring up Kellen because
Kellen, Emo, all of them. When we're looking back at it and just seeing them at camps, we're like, wow, these guys are like at FC Dallas, and like everybody knew their names. And it's not to say, like you said, like we all knew they were good players, like all, but there's tons of players. Like take DJ for instance. Daniel Johnson, like, is one of our closest friends in football. Like, and I grew up in Georgia, and like from the time DJ was 9, DJ was at West Ham. DJ was like a top player. Like everyone's like, yo, I'm telling you, like I'm convinced that if Atlanta United existed, he would have been in their academy from the time he was 10 years old up into
he would have been a homegrown player.
Without a doubt.
I'm gonna show you something that's on my bed real quick because you're gonna laugh. It's Kid Boys Club. Is Daniel Johnson's fashion company, soccer fashion company, Kit Boys Club Live, anti-VAR. Okay, that's a free plug.
Nice.
DJ, let it be known. I love what he's doing. He's a great player, man. Him and I mean you mentioned Marcus before we jumped on the call, but
Marcus, exactly. Like
I remember just thinking, like, man, these guys, they made me want to work harder as a player. And
I remember being in the room like after like Disney when we're with Region 3 and like just going back with Marcus and just talking about his experience in Mississippi. And I was like, man, you're living in Mississippi? That's crazy. Like it's so crazy to have you actually out there in Mississippi living, playing. And then
his club, I didn't mean to interrupt, but his club was literally founded by his dad and played 4 years up sometimes. Like it was not a club where there's teams for each age level. It was like he had an older brother who played and they needed players to play. So they got the younger brothers to come play and they were nice.
That is such a great story because like that's to show like we're young. We're only 25 in this. So there was no DA when we were playing like until the very end. Like there was no DA, there was no like real like scouting network where it's like, okay, these are the top players everywhere. Like it's structured, okay, like a DA happened, like, okay, we have national team scouts at our games. Like without a doubt, we have all this, we're prepared for everything. There's MLS academies now. It's like there was literally none of that. Like we looked forward to like playing like state cup and tournaments. Now state cup like doesn't matter. Like
I know, but hey, football at the end of the day is football. It didn't matter what the label of the tournament or competition was. I was looking forward to every Saturday and Sunday morning getting out there and nutmegging some fools and scoring some goals.
And you did.
Then I did.
Okay, next question, bro. Like, like we just touched on Nashville. When you think about like returning to Nashville and being like you're a scout now, how did it feel, one, becoming a Nashville scout, and two, like building the team from scratch? Because like you've touched Nashville at a different part where a lot of other agents haven't been as blessed to like be a part of the process from like start to like finish. Well, it's not finished. The season didn't happen. Literally, you built the roster from like the literally first season. There aren't many people like it, and I personally, like, we talked about this, and we talked about this even off of camera. Like, I think Nashville, like, you guys did a good job. Like, I honestly
Yeah,
think you guys did a great job in recruitment.
Thank you guys.
Good job with Chance,
absolutely.
you, the whole squad. Like, you guys put out a good squad. So like, what was that experience like, starting like from the bottom?
Oh yeah. Well, I guess I just want to first by preface in saying that it's like the greatest honor and responsibility I've been afforded in my 25 years. Like what we just talked about moments ago. Like selfishly, I really wish this institution existed when I was a young kid, because I had to conceptualize without even knowing like how to dream about becoming something in soccer. That, you know, there was no one to look up to. I mean, yes, you had people playing in World Cups, but like they're in the World Cup. How did they get there? What did they do to get there? You just didn't know, right? And so my responsibility now is to make sure that I can help other kids who are in my situation, like, know that we're there for them. And so it's the greatest honor I've been given. But I've been in Tennessee my whole life. My parents still live in the same house I came home from the hospital in. They've been here for 150 years and they've never left. And so I know what daily life is like for Tennesseans. We're not wealthy people. You know, we were farmers, we were shepherds, we were local business owners, laundromat, gas stations, educators. Like, so for me, the way I view football through my lens is I see it as a true equalizer and a social institution. And it's something that can uplift people no matter what their circumstances are. It can empower individuals. It can empower communities. And so for me to be in the position I'm in, I obsess about it every single day. It's more than a job. It's not even a paycheck, man. It's like it's a calling to life. I really view it as that. And so, it's you wake up in the morning and these times are very, very, very unsettling. And we can talk about that off camera because this is a football podcast, right? We're going to talk about football and we're going to bring positivity through that. But I wake up in the morning and I know that I have a mission, and my mission is going to make the lives of hundreds of thousands of people better in due time. And so it's not work for me, man. It's awesome. It's everything I dreamed of. And I'll tell a quick anecdote. I remember after graduating Brown, so summer of 2017, I was playing for the under 23 team here in the PDL. Gary was a head coach. He had just been announced head coach. And my best friend, one of my best friends in high school growing up, he was a teammate of mine all through high school and ODP and club. His name's Bobby. We were at our local high school. He lived half a mile away. I lived a mile and a half away. So we would just walk to the high school. Growing up, I'd shoot on him. We would just walk around and just talk, reminisce, right? And I remember him asking me May or June of 2017, so T, you're going to SMU. What's the plan after that? And I said, man, I have a feeling Nashville's going to get an MLS team. They did about 5 months later. I said, I have a feeling they're going to get an MLS team. And I said, and when they do, I'm going to make it my mission that they can't not have me involved. Like I know what I need to do to help build this institution for the better. And I said, hopefully I can help, scouting and putting the team together. So I remember speaking it into existence right when I graduated, and it took me 2 years to get here, but it happened. And so I just thought that would be a pretty interesting little sidebar to mention how if you want to achieve something, you can manifest it. You really can. You just got to put your mind to it and work towards your goals. So
That's,
Absolutely.
inspiring, because I even tell like everybody, just even my players, like people I work with, that you need to believe it to honestly achieve it. Like, it sounds like so fake when you say it, but there's so many things that like even players, like you yourself in general, need to like have a pathway. And like I was speaking to this older gentleman, he was probably like in his 70s, and he goes, listen, like the pathway in life, we don't know anything about it, but you just have to believe you have to believe, and just don't worry about the process. Just believe that you're gonna achieve your goals in life. Don't stress the process, but it's gonna happen. So, bro, honestly, like I've told you so many times, I'm so happy for you, because I feel like there's no, honestly, like you said, bro, there's no better person to grow Nashville than someone who's been there and knows, like, not even just
Lived
like football, but you've lived through it. You've grown up in the youth system. You know, like, you know the top youth clubs in the area. You know the players in the area. You know the fans in the area and what they would want to see. And then even like to put it out on the pitch, like when I saw Nashville, and like the amount of fans you guys generated your home opener, I was like honestly, I remember Nashville being like, because I'm from Atlanta, I'm like, Nashville's like our little brothers, they're small,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, no disrespect to Nashville, like I just remember Nashville being like a hard team to play, like they'll try to outwork you, like, and then when I saw the team, I was like, wow, like, and the fans were going nuts, and then like you guys actually like fighting for results, and like the players like working hard, and you guys looked mad organized, like for a team
Yeah.
that just came into the league. I was like, wow, they are one of the most organized teams. From the first 2 weeks that I saw, I was like, this is exciting. Like, this is really exciting. So like I always say, man, you and Chance did a great job, like, for sure. And then just to jump to another question, it's like, um, so this is a podcast, agents, players, scouts, like, you're our first source, I would assume, with clubs. Like, when I think of like reaching out to a club, the first thing I think is, let me try to find a scout, or let me talk to a scout. So for players, it's, what should players like do and look for? Because some players may think it's just about my talent. Like, talent alone will make this scout interested in me. Like, we've had conversations about certain things that's like, players need to understand, like, I more than you just being talented to make it. So without like really diving into it, because I know like you guys really can't, but just give us some tips for players to like what they should work on, like if there's anything they need to do outside the field, how to get your attention, like you personally, because you can't speak for every scout, but like what do you look for?
For sure. Before I answer that, I do just want to give just a slight mention. Like, you mentioned the organization and how our team played within the first 2 weeks. Credit goes to Gary Smith and Mike Jacobs, our head coach and our GM. Like, Gary has been in communication with Chance daily for over a year. Like, there was no questions in what we as a recruitment staff needed to get for him to do his job, right? So he made it crystal clear for us. And then Mike, the way he planned out the expansion process, the super draft process, everything and in between, like, those two guys leading us, we wouldn't have had, although we didn't get 3 points on both match days, I think you can see that we're a serious team in the league. And so I think the credit definitely goes to those two individuals for orchestrating the whole thing. But to answer your question, talent, technique, fitness, those are the easy things to see. Like, if you love football and you watch football, you can easily say that person has technique, that person's slow, that, this and that. Those are really easy things. Where it gets tricky in the recruitment process is aligning the people. You got to separate the player from the people, right? Players are players, people is what you're investing in. Okay, players come and go, but people are the ones who build cultures, who build teams, and who are the face of your franchise. So we look for people first before the players. Like, yes, you have to have these qualities that we check off for the playing side of it, but if you don't have a growth mindset, you don't have a place here. If you don't put others before yourself, you don't have a place here. And if you're not someone who's willing to roll up your sleeves and work, you're not going to have a place here. And you can't really see those things all the time watching film. Those come about through conversations, references, calling former coaches, calling teammates of the players. Like, you really have to be like a private investigator in how you're acquiring information. Luckily for young players, for those who are listening, this is a place where you can really make a difference, right? If a scout is watching an under 18 game, we don't expect every player to be playing like Xavi or Iniesta. Like, it's football. Everyone's going to make mistakes, but what we will take notice of is when you lose the ball, are you putting your head down and running back to try to get the ball? Like, are you fighting for your team, or are you losing the ball and you're just letting your teammates deal with
your
it?
hands.
Yeah, throw your hands in the air. You're blaming other people. Like, how's your body language? Attitude. Yeah. How are you communicating with your team? Are you talking to your teammates? Are you quiet? Like, when the going gets tough, are you like rallying your troops to keep fighting and to play, or are you cowering into a shell? Like, we want the personalities that when push comes to shove, they're there and they're gonna stand united. And if you don't have that growth mindset, that mentality of team first, or hard work gets results, that's not in our DNA. So you're not going to be a part of our team if you don't possess those things. So that's what we're looking for when we look at players.
So Tyler, can you talk to our audience more? It's kind of just to piggyback off of what you just said, but can you kind of explain how scouting has even changed during COVID now?
Of course, that's a great question, Maggie. The best scouting to identify what I'm just talking about, you have to be in person. You have to be in the stadium. You have to feel the atmosphere of the fans, of the supporters. You have to feel the energy. You have to feel the vibrance of the city. You have to know the stakes that are at play, and to really know the type of pressures that the players are feeling. And then when you're in the stadium, when you're watching at home on a computer, you're just watching actions, events. It's very short. It might be muted. You might have music on the background. You're just watching the quality part. When you're in the stadium, that's when you're live. You're feeling it. So COVID is making it very difficult because we're looking for a position, and we've watched dozens of games on video of these players for this position, but there's nothing that's going to compare to being in that stadium and seeing how that player is reacting during like a random throw-in, or after a goal's been conceded, or those are things that you can't pick up in video. And so COVID has changed that. And additionally, it's like we're going to have a period of time where we don't know what football looks like.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the fans, the life of your team. You don't have them in there. And so our game's just going to look like glorified training sessions.
Yeah.
But there is professionalism. So I'd like to think that guys are going to still care at the levels they are. But is it going to be the same? I don't know. And so it's something that we are just patient, and we're listening to the health experts to say, when they say it's right to have people gathering, but we'll scout in person. But until then, no, we're being safe. We're just going to watch video from the comforts of our house. We're going to listen to the guidelines that all the officials put out. But no, it's a really good question, because what we look for, you can identify the qualities. You can't identify the person via video. So
I'm going to probably add another layer to that question. So being that it's, we're kind of still in COVID, some states and cities are opening back up. They're going through, phase 1, phase 2. So during a time like this, is your club even scouting, or are they kind of just saying, let's wait and see what happens, and kind of just deal with the current roster that we have? I mean, if you can share that, like, are you guys scouting? And if so, because of COVID, are you holding any trials for players or like tryouts?
Good question. So it's been business as usual for scouting. And I joke with Chance, I'm more busy now
than before.
I'm going to say than before, because I've been busy from the jump, right? I started in August, and it was 10, 12-hour days, 7 days a week. You're doing something every single day because you got to build a roster. But it's not work, right? You're doing what you love, so it's not work. No, business as usual has been the same. Like, it's been kind of a blessing, and I say that in the context that when you're in the office space, it's great for collaboration. You have other opinions. You can talk to people. It's easier to meet and have discussions. But when you're just watching qualities of a player, really wanting to watch a game with like the maximum focus, you kind of want to have tunnel vision. You don't want to have distractions beside you. And so being at home really allows our scouting team to focus in on their responsibilities that they need to give the best reports that they can for the decision makers at our club to go about it. And as for trials, No, so we're still in individual voluntary training. So trials, I don't see us bringing in trials. It's very difficult because you have the health protocols you have to adhere to. And
Mhm.
so if you're viewing it through like an economic lens, if you want to be on trial for a club, you're going to have to self-isolate for 2 weeks. You're going to have medical testing done. And we're still not even cleared to train. So you're looking at expenses of, 14 days of in some place living. Okay. You're also having food that you got to eat. You're also sacrificing opportunity costs
Wow.
and other wages. And
And
so
that's before the trial even starts, which
that's
is like
before
Starts.
it
two
starts.
weeks. You know?
Exactly. So
Exactly.
the purpose of a trial is like a low cost mechanism for a club to evaluate a player and for a player to show what they have in person.
Mhm.
And due to the health guidelines right now, it's going to cost money for that to happen. And where we are, we depend on match day revenue. So we're not going to pay for someone to come on trial. And likewise, if we want to bring someone on trial, we'd like to pay for them to be on trial. So we don't want
Right.
a player or an agent to bear a cost when we don't think that's a fair way to go about it. So no trials. We're still waiting for us to get back to training and to see what happens. But it's a very good question to consider.
See, Nate, I know you want to get a question in, but I have one more. Well, not
Oh,
even just a question. What you just said, Tyler, it hits it on the nail. You just said if we as a club want that player to trial, we'll pay for that, right?
Yes,
In some cases, you have a lot of players. So I'm very happy that you shared that because you have a lot of players that are not aware of that.
of course. And there's always going to be instances, right? Like if you're coming in a preseason with us, we're going to pay for all of that, right? Because preseason is a very demanding, grueling experience to go through, no matter who you are. Training 2-3 days at times a day, just very physically, mentally draining. Like we're not going to make you bear a financial cost for
Mhm.
working really hard, right? We're going to take care of you. And on the other side of that, we're not going to bring you in on a trial unless we actually believe you have something to give. Okay, so if you earn a trial, you've already gotten past the hardest part of like you've showed
Exactly.
us something. Okay, so it's up to you now, and you're not going to get rich off a trial, right? But it could change your life. So that's
yeah.
how we like to view it.
No, that's the key thing. I mean, that's key what you said because, like, for Nate and myself, just as agents, it can be hard to deal with that part because some players they'll just, especially if they're foreign, like abroad, they're not used to knowing that. So thank you so much for sharing that. That's very important. So for the audience out there that's listening in, you heard what Tyler said. Can't speak
Like,
for can't speak for other leagues, but you heard what Tyler said. So
yeah.
We try to do our
So
business the
like,
right way in Nashville.
yeah, exactly. So that brings up a good point because even as agents, when you talk to players and stuff, they're like, "Oh yeah, this club may want me to come, whatever, whatever." But then if they're like pay for everything, it's kind of a red flag to me as an agent because I'm like, they're not really serious if they don't think that you're worth at least housing you while you're there. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
it's like the point to hear it from a scout because when agents say it, players are like, "Nah, man, you're kind of crazy." But it's like if they don't want to invest a house in you, why would they invest a salary in you? Like, you know what I mean? For a couple of
Bingo.
days.
Of course,
Like,
but
Bingo.
it also just to like wrap that part up depends on the club
yeah,
and
every
Mm,
club's different.
resources. Like
Yeah.
different.
we're a new club. We still don't have a training site, but we still haven't built our own training site. And so some clubs are going to have host families and
Yeah,
apartment
exactly.
complexes like the Real Salt Lakes
Yeah,
Sporting
nothing
Case.
wrong with that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so some have that advantage in there, but that's the investments you make, right? You make those investments so you can offer the right service. But
Yeah,
you're not going to get it across the board. It's not going to be uniform, unfortunately. So
exactly. Also, I want to talk about agents now because you have seen it from both sides. And like, I like to think that like we know we've all been in the business. Like there are agents, there's a good percentage, I'm not going to say a lot, but there is a percentage that have this bad perception that scouts and clubs have about agents. Maggie and I like to hope have a like when agency or when scouts hear from us, they're like, okay, like he's cool, or she's cool. You know what I mean? Like I'll deal with them. So can you?
I think it's a little bit difficult for me.
Yeah.
It's a
Can
lot more
you?
difficult.
Yeah. Because even like sorry guys, off of the camera, I did ask Tyler. I was like, when he was in the agency business, one, has he seen a female agent? And they're rare. He said no. He said,
Mm.
and then two, it's like, can you give agents advice for reaching out to scouts and like do's and don'ts? Because me, I think like
Lawyers.
common courtesy and being a genuine person matters in any industry you work in. But I think that people are so focused, or agents have this perception of like, I need to get this deal done. I need to have quick money. And if I bring a guy to your club and there's something like you guys don't see on the surface, like maybe he has a injury that like he has a reoccurring injury that I don't necessarily say as an agent, that can ruin my relationship with the club. But it's like, I want the money, so I'm gonna get the deal done. I don't work that way personally. Like I like to I like to be completely transparent. This is what it is. This is the situation that I found, but I know other agents don't. So like, can you give, and you've been an agent too, so you know the tricks that agents try to pull and all that. So like, can you give agents a better insight on like how to talk to scouts and how to approach them and like what you guys think about agents in general?
Of course, yeah. The best advice I would give is just do your homework. It's like all aspects of in life. If you plan to, if you say you want to cook a dinner, right? But you don't have the recipe or ingredients in front of you, and you don't have the knife, the pan, or an oven,
Or even the
like
meat. Like,
yeah, like how are you going to make a good meal? You're just not. Okay, so do your homework. And luckily in our industry, the homework's fun. You watch soccer, okay? So if you want to reach out to a club, watch their past couple of games. Take notes. Say, this is how they like to play. They're weak in this area. Ooh, they're very strong in this area. Okay, I know they're weak in this area. Let me go ahead and pull up my computer and see who I can reach out to at this club. When you reach out, be very cordial, be very concise, and keep it professional. Just say, hey, I'm so and so. I've watched the past number of games, and I noticed that you may be looking weak in this area. Is this what you're looking to upgrade in the next transfer window or two? If not, I'd love to know how I can help you find what you're looking for. Okay. Then that's where I will come into play in my daily job. I'll read my WhatsApp messages. I'll go through my email, my LinkedIn, whatever it is. And I'll say, oh, this person has watched us play. Oh, that's a very astute observation. They see that we're weak in this area. They already know. So I can say, hey, thanks for reaching out. Yeah, we are. We actually are looking for that position. And here's our budget. And here's the age and maybe a few qualities that what we're looking for. I'm looking forward to hearing back of your proposal, okay? If you don't have someone that matches that criteria, your best bet is just to say, I've exhausted my scouting network and I don't have anything that matches. Is there any other way I can help you? Because at least I will know that you're not just trying to sell me something. Okay?
Exactly.
You're doing your job. And if you don't have something that matches what a club's looking for, that doesn't mean you're a bad agent. It doesn't mean you're a bad scout. It just means you can't help out in that particular situation. So what triggers and irks me is I'll spend time really telling an agent what we're looking for, and I get emails back almost immediately with a player that's in a different position or a player that's like 5 times more expensive than we're looking for, or just a lack of concern with what our needs are, right? Because at the end of the day, like we have to work together. Clubs need players, and agents are a good way to supply players to put them on your radar because there's tens of thousands of players in the world. But if you're an agent and you're not assisting the club, okay, and you're trying to match your own agenda, that's a really quick way to be pushed to the bottom of the list of correspondence. Because how we view agents, it's like everything in life. There's going to be good and bad of everything, and it's a spectrum, right? You have some like you guys who are at the very good end, right? That we really like, and there's also, I'm not going to mention names, but the guys who have the big money deals in the Premier League in Europe, they're probably at the far end because they make clubs pay a lot of money, right? So everyone's in the spectrum, but as long as you're genuine with what you do and you try to build meaningful relationships and partnerships with the clubs, we will want to correspond with you as quickly as possible and keep that relationship growing and blooming for the future.
Love it. Love
Yeah,
it. Love it. Love it.
because I understand completely what you're talking about when it's like even me like from like an agent to like a player, like how you were saying like when players reach out to me, if it's not a genuine like, hey, I saw that you did this or this, or hey, I'm looking for an agent and like I chose to reach out to you because this, if it's just a generic, can you help me find a club? Like you did this, then it's like it's not really genuine. But if they're like, oh, I've seen your work, I'm interested in working with you, this is my stuff, and like even if I'm not interested, I'm more willing to respond because I know it's not a generic message sent out to like mass agents or like mass scouts because even we're on a different spectrum because as an agent you're doing more reaching out than people reach out to you. So
Yeah,
I
Mm-hmm.
understand like even when I reach out to Tyler, like it's more so like I'm not gonna hound him with a response. Like
Right.
it's
that's
key.
one thing.
That's key. Hmm.
Like if I'm working with anyone or if I'm working with Tyler, I can say like if we are in a conversation, I'll say what I need to say and leave it at that. And I don't expect to hear back from him right away because I assume there's hundreds and thousands of agents and players and scout reaching out to him already. So it's like I'm not gonna be like, yo, annoying and bother him. Like I know that he's gonna get back to me eventually. There's no need for me to send 5, 6, 7 messages because it's like I'm not respective of their club and their time. And I know a lot of agents who are like, oh, it's been 24 hours. Like, I need to see like what they're doing. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
we're on the other side, so it's like, yeah, we need to get a response. But it's like I understand that there's so much going on from a scout where it's like they probably have hundreds of conversations with agents, and we're having like maybe 10 conversations with scouts. So like I really appreciate when you're like telling agents how to approach you guys because even for my industry, like we were talking about earlier, there are some very good agents, but it's just that it's been tainted to a point where it's like scouts just don't want to deal with agents, period. Because there's been so
Yeah.
many who do like malpractices and it's just basic common courtesy. Like,
Exactly. Exactly. And what you said is true. Like if I responded to every WhatsApp message the second it was sent to me, I couldn't do my job. I literally could not do my job because my whole
Yeah.
day would be responding to WhatsApp messages.
Messages. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm paid to one. That's a facet of my job, right? But my main role is to make sure we're bringing the right people into the club. That's and the way to do that is to watch soccer. Like talking to an agent and getting into a disagreement or an argument or whatever it may be. It's not helping my time, okay? But
Right.
I mean, I try to at least have like a 30-minute block every single day where I just address my WhatsApp messages and try to like make sure all those conversations are like I hate to say concluded, like the main point of that
yeah,
conversation is finito so that I can take on
yeah,
the next
next one.
dozen. Yeah. But,
Exactly.
but no, but how you handle it and how you describe your process, like yeah, that's how you should be talking to scouts at clubs, like 100%, 100%. So
Thank you.
Awesome.
Um, what else do you want to ask? Okay, so let's talk about like soccer and just your perspective on like where do you think the future for yourself is like your individual goals and like your goals for the club and like can we touch on like the youth academy too because I know you guys are coming up with a youth academy, so like what are your goals for the youth academy if you can touch on that, like it doesn't have to be about bringing players into the club, it could be anything, like are you happy about like where you guys are headed, like how's the talent in Nashville, what are your personal goals like for like the club in general, and like that's more what we're trying to get into.
cool. Yeah, no, the academy. I couldn't be more thrilled with the work that the academy has done. Ownership, the Ingram family, they've shown a sincere investment into the people of Nashville, not just for the club, but for the academy. And Jamie Smith, our academy director, and Kevin Flanagan, our director of talent ID, both of them work tirelessly to provide the best youth experience that kids in Tennessee will ever have. I've been at every single ID clinic and tryout we've had for the '06, '07, and '08 age groups. And there's talent here. There is talent. And the beautiful thing is the barriers to entry that previously existed, are a non-factor now with us because there's no pay to play. All you have to do is show up the day of the trial and ball. And if you do that, you're fine. Genuinely. Like, you don't have to pay any money. We take care of it. And so we're getting members of the community who traditionally we haven't been able to reach out or work with before. Like growing up, my youth teams were like, I would say 90% white dominated, right? Whereas our academy, I would say it's almost like a 33% split between African American, Hispanic, Latino, and whites. So we have it truly represents that what the community of Nashville is, which is a beautiful thing to see. So one, I couldn't be happier, and I love every time I have academy conversations. And also, man, I'm 25, so my legs still work decently well. It's great going out there when they trial, man, because I can hop in the rondos, I can nutmeg some kids, and I can josh around on the pitch. And there's nothing better than being on the pitch, because if the kids see that you're 25 years old and you still love the game as you're getting older, like that's just only going to want to encourage them to try to become the best versions of themselves. So academy, extremely happy. For the club, listen, everyone who's a part of this club, we want to be a championship side. Like if you're obsessed with something and you want something, you don't excuse my language, you don't half-ass it, okay? Like, you work to become the best. And so in our mind, we think we have what it takes to become a championship side club. We're gonna be obsessed with that until that goal is reached. And once that goal is reached, then it's going to be time to raise expectations once again. Like, we're not just here to play, we're here to win. As for my goals, man, I don't have any other idea of what I want to do in my life other than just seeing Nashville Soccer Club become like a pillar of the Nashville community. Like, I want people to associate it with every good adjective you can think of. I want it to inspire people. I want it to provide hope and love and inclusivity, and I want it to help promote change for the better. Like, a soccer club is much more than just 11 guys on a pitch kicking a ball into a net. Like, it represents everything and every strand of DNA that is in that area. And so I don't have any other goals other than just seeing this thing become what it will become. And so once that's done, then I'll think about other things. But until then, man, I'm living my literal dream. So I don't have any other goals than just to keep on doing what I'm doing.
And it's great because I can hear the passion in your voice when you talk about Nashville, and it even gets me inspired. And I just want to touch on other things Nashville has done, because when you say more than a club, like, we spoke about it when I heard the tornado happened, like right after you guys literally played, I think it was the first game, like the home opener. The next
3 days after that, 3 days after the home opener.
3 days after the home opener, you guys had a tornado in your community, and I was just like, wow, I have to reach out, because your performance inspired me. I just felt for the community of Nashville. You know what I mean? When things like that happen, and to see that the club went out and helped the community, and like you were helping, like everybody came together, and it was like for the city, like for the community, like that inspires me, because it's like, you guys are literally, when I think of Nashville, it's like, I don't think of Nashville, the MLS club. I think of Nashville like the city and community that now has a platform to showcase their city and community. Because like, I've talked to you about the playing style. I think the playing style really has simulated what I think of Nashville as a whole. Like, hardworking people put their nose down, they work, they fight till the 90th minute. Like, they're scrappy, they're organized. Like, and when that happened to your community, and just all the stuff that you guys have done, like as a club in the community, really shows like what you guys think about Nashville, and like the pride that you guys carry with your organization. Like, it really is more than a club for you guys.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll just tell another quick anecdote about that. So the tornadoes that came through, it started as an E2, ended up, or F2, E2, F2, whatever, and it ended up E5 or F5, whatever. It went the whole spectrum to like 160, 170 mile per hour winds. And the tornado went through my neighborhood. I live in the Germantown neighborhood in Nashville. And it was a really scary moment. And then we didn't really know what was happening, because we had a siren, and within 3 minutes we had to be in a safe spot. And it was like 20 minutes of kind of chaos, no internet, no power, We turned into the news, and right before the power shut off, like the news anchors were literally freaking out on television, like this is not a drill, this is not a drill. You need to take cover, Nashville. It was very scary. But once the storm had passed our neighborhood and unfortunately gone on to do worse damage further east, within 20 minutes, I had messages from Daniel Rios on the team and Taylor Washington. They both live in Germantown. Hey man, are you okay? Like, yeah man, are you okay? Like, do you need anything? He said. Taylor was like, no man, I'm picking up Daniel, I'm picking up David. They're going to stay with me tonight. So you have guys on our own team who are literally first responders for their teammates. And so when you're talking about the identity of Nashville, we come together, we do that. And it's not, we're not saying that, okay? Like, we literally are doing that. I remember I stayed up to 5 a.m. that night because two of our friends lived in an apartment complex that their windows got shattered. Everything was flooded. So they stayed with us that night. Stayed up to 5 to make sure that they were fine. I go into work to training 9 a.m. the next day. All the bosses understand what had happened. They're sympathizing. They say, go home, take care of what you need to take care of. And I go home. I cut on the news after training, and a historic burger joint, Jack Brown's Burger, was knocked down. And they have people on the news showing how just hit, like, people in the community, like, didn't go into work that day. They went to rebuild the burger joint. Like, and that's just symbolic of what it is to be from Nashville, man. Like, we all love this little precious little area we live in, and it's kind of a secret. No one really knows much about it because it's a nicely kept secret. Okay, how great Nashville is, but it's the people that make it so special, right? People respond and they take care of their own, and we're all into this together. Humanity forward is just something I like to say, and that's what Nashville exhibits. So that's my anecdote of the tornado in Nashville and, and all that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. Nashville's a great. Honestly, I really, this year it was on my to-do list to come and watch you guys in Nashville. Like,
yes.
It definitely was on my to-do list. Even here in Toronto.
Mine too. It's still on my list.
We'll make sure you guys have nice seats when you come. Okay.
It's still on my list.
Definitely, man. So thank you so much, Tyler, for coming on the podcast, bro. Like, I really appreciate it, and I know, like, every facet of football, like, from fans of football, agents, players, love to hear from scouts. So to have you on, and, like, I honestly consider you a friend, so, like, it really means a lot to me to have you as the first scout. And, like, I think you do great work, and, like, you're the perfect, like, you were the agent, like, you played in college, like, you went through all the levels, and, like, even to, like, build, like, be home and, like, build up your club from the ground up. Honestly, it's inspiring to me. We're the same age, bro, and I'm inspired by you. I need you to know that. So thank you again.
Likewise.
Thank you again. Like, I can't thank you enough. It was a blessing to have you. And please, guys, tune in next week for another episode of Inside Agents. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you.
God bless, guys. Stay safe.